YouTube fellow community, Ringo Starr fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about a greatest hits album for Ringo. But I wanted to talk about this for a number of reasons, and that's Starstruck, the Best of Ringo Volume 2. The 80s were an interesting time for Ringo because a lot happened, and I feel like his life after the Beatles sometimes gets overlooked or just disregarded because it wasn't about the Beatles. And he had an interesting life. He went through a lot. He had a lot of hard times, and he got so much better mentally and healthy, physically healthy in the late 80s, which has led to him being sober for the last 30 odd years and taking better care of himself and having a gigantic resurgence in popularity. Believe it or not, there was a time when a Beatle couldn't sell any music and record labels didn't want to have them, which is an absolute what? Just blows my mind. Anyways, this came out in 1989 on the Rhino Records label, and beyond this amazing cover, which I think is great, it's an excellent set of his 1976 to 1983 period, because he didn't put out any music in the 80s beyond the first couple of years. So this takes place basically after the original Blast from the Past album, which came out in 1975 or 6, something like that. The cover of this album is actually the original Can't Fight Lightning album, which is what Stop and Smell the Roses was going to be called, and also would have had a song called Can't Fight Lightning on it. When Rhino was going to put this album out, Ringo even said, hey, because you're using this cover, let's put out the original version of Can't Fight Lightning on this thing so collectors can have it. And Rhino was like, nah. So Ringo tried. This came out in the US only. It was out of print by the mid-90s. It also came out on cassette, which I think is pretty darn cool. I'll show that a little more detail there. The late 70s and early 80s, Ringo had some interesting tracks. His albums were solid. He had some good stuff. There were definitely hits and misses on each album, but overall, really not that bad. He had some pretty clever material. And this collects a lot of that stuff, and a lot of it does come from Old Wave, which is easily one of his best albums and didn't even come out in the United States, which blows my mind. This album didn't chart at all. It was also his last greatest hits until 2007's Photograph, which is an excellent CD. But yeah, the 80s were interesting. So after Old Wave, he kind of stopped with the whole music thing for a while. He got involved with Shining Time Station and did the voice of the conductor. He was the conductor on Thomas the Tank Engine, which I think is really cool. He got over drinking, which had taken up so much of his life, and him and Barbara got clean in the late 80s. He stopped doing a country album around 1987 or 88 because things fell through, and management, legal stuff, it was a mess with that. Good things about the 80s, the Beatles got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988, which is pretty cool. And in 1989, he started the All-Star Band. So I have a feeling this was probably put together because of all that popularity and press that was happening. So, being involved with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was brand new at that point, it's only a couple of years old, and starting the All-Star Band, Flowers in the Dirt had just come out, Cloud 9 had just come out, so a lot was happening for the Beatles at this time. So because Ringo didn't have a new album out, maybe the record companies thought, well, let's put out a Ringo Greatest Hits and see what that can do. It did okay. It didn't chart, but it did okay. So there was a lot of activities. Oh yeah, Traveling Wilburys, Full Moon Fever from Tom Petty, because Ringo plays on that, I Won't Back Down. So it may have been a record company thing to cash in on selling as much Beatles stuff as possible, which is understandable. That happens, but the album itself, if you're unfamiliar with Ringo's stuff from the late 70s and early 80s, this is a great introduction. Because they really took some of the best stuff that he did at that point. They make a pretty solid album. You can just play this as an album. Forget that it's a greatest hits album. It kind of works just as a record on its own. Rack My Brain opens this... What's up with my voice there, guys? Rack My Brain opens this thing, and it comes off the Stop and Smell the Roses album. George is on this thing. He produced it. He plays guitar. Ringo's on it as well. There's a lot of Beatles stuff on here. John and George and Paul are all on this thing. So it's kind of like the Ringo album part 2. So if you want another late 80s Beatles album, this is it. Awesome song. Super catchy. Very memorable. It hit the top 40 in the US at that time in 1981. So it did pretty well for itself. Excellent track. Ringo sings it really well. Great background vocals. Excellent production. I love the drumming on this thing. Just a fun song. Just a really fun song. The video, I remember seeing the video a long time ago. It's been a while since I've seen it. I remember the video was like a haunted house or something. I'll have to watch it again, but excellent track. In My Car. This is where things get really interesting. This song should have been a gigantic smash for Ringo. Joe Walsh is on it. He produced it. Ringo, of course, plays drums and sings on it as well. But it's absolutely amazing song. Just a really solid pop rock track. It not only sounds current for the time, but it's got some guts to it. It's got some oomph behind it. It's not just oh, Ringo in the studio again. Oh, great. Okay, cool. It's just like, all right, I'm going to make something current that's going to sound fun and fresh and ready for radio. This song can blend in very well next to the Cars or Devo or whatever else was around at that time on the radio. I love the jamming at the end. Ringo's vocals on this song are just so confident and so ready and hungry. Like he's got this desire to make something special. So the fact that this song wasn't a hit blows my mind. There was no promotion behind this stuff. Like, God, breaks my heart. But excellent song. Cooking in the Kitchen of Love. John wrote this one. He plays piano on it. You've also got Jim Keltner on drums along with Ringo. But the song's not bad too. I mean, it's more of a silly, lighthearted track, but that's kind of what Ringo was known for. He had a lot of that stuff. It's definitely got a catchy vocal melody for sure. I love the background vocals on this. It's very 50s. You know, we're gonna have a house party kind of feel. And they even sing, you know, we're gonna have a party kind of stuff in there too. But I love the echo on his voice. It's very John Strait to have echo on the voice there. I think it's really cool. I keep forgetting. Joe Walsh is here again, and Ringo also plays drums and sings, and you got a whole bunch of other people on this thing. Mo Foster plays bass, Ray Cooper on percussion, Gary Brooker on keyboards, and of course Joe on guitars. This comes from the same album, the Old Wave album from 1983, and again, it's one of those things where Ringo's got this confident vocal thing going on. He sounds like he's young and hungry and ready to make some hits. You know, it's a seriously effective version of Ringo that's just ready for radio. The piano and the breakup rhythm are super cool. The solo from Joe is fantastic. Great jam again at the end. It's one of those, you know, kind of blends in well within my car. Definitely an excellent track. Hard Times. This one comes off the Bad Boy album. And, you know, it was one of the ones were produced by Vinnie Poncia, which they were together for a long time in the 70s doing work together. A very catchy, upbeat rocker, great horns in this thing. The bass is real pumping throughout this whole track. Really bouncy piano, and Ringo's doing great on vocals on this one too. I don't really see it as like being single worthy, but fun song nonetheless. And then side one ends with Hey Baby, which is a cover of that early, was it Bruce Chanel did that back in the day? Absolutely fantastic version of the song. It's a big, joyous party vibe of a song. So much fun. Who else is on this? This is the back of this thing is great because it says who's on it. But yeah, I thought I saw some famous names on there. Maybe not. Well, Jim Kilter's on there again. Produced by Eric Martin. Yeah, fun song. I'm really glad this was on that 2007 Photograph CD because that's the first time I ever heard it was when I bought that CD on that Greatest Hits thing. So big crunchy guitars, head bobber of a track, fun stuff. Side 2 opens with a dose of rock and roll. This song's really cool. It's got Peter Frampton on it, which is great. And Klaus. Klaus plays bass. So again, you're getting more of a Beatles type album on here, which I think is so cool. The intro to the song is great. Big, fast, giant, you know, exciting horns. Kind of slows down a little bit. But it's got a really nice rock and roll shuffle. It stays in your head. It's got a cool melody, nice mood to it. A Klaus on bass and the Hey Baby coda at the end, I think, is a cool, you know, flip from side one. So that's cool. Private Property, Paul wrote this one, and you know, Paul's on it, Linda's on it, Lawrence Juber from Wings is on it as well, Linda McCartney, Howie Casey does the saxophones, Paul's on bass. This is from the Stop and Smell the Roses album as well. I love the acoustic guitar on this one. The solos are really fun. Honestly, I'd probably remove the horns. I find them to be a little, not superfluous, but I think the track could benefit from more of a stripped down production. Just my little tiny thought. Bit of a cheesy song. It's not my favorite on the album, but I can still enjoy it for the fact that when you hear those harmonies from Paul and Linda in the background, it's like, oh, whoa, Wings. Cool. Sweet. Great. Can She Do It Like She Dances? This song is funny. It's a fun song. Yeah, some of those names I recognize. Yeah, David Spinoza on lead guitar. Ringo on drums, of course. Yeah. This comes off the Ringo the Fourth album, which I think is the only song on here from that album. Yeah. Which I think Ringo the Fourth is pretty solid. I mean, there's definitely some singles on here that actual singles that didn't make this thing. So it's kind of like they chose the best of the era, regardless of the fact that things were singles or not. But Ringo sounds wild on this one. It's a super punchy track, big exciting build-ups throughout this thing. They lead up to the chorus, so super fun. Heart on My Sleeve. This song is actually pretty nice, and I like having the sadder track after a more exciting one. The sadder songs have always suited Ringo's voice. I wish he would just make another country album because he would do so well in that element. When he sings the sadder songs, it is that his voice just works with that mood. It just flows so well. Really sweet song, well played. Great track. It's off the Bad Boy album. And then Sure to Fall in Love with You, fantastic Carl Perkins song, which the Beatles used to do back in the old days. Paul plays piano and bass on this thing. Lawrence Stuber is there again. Linda McCartney. Obviously Ringo. Sheila Kesey. A whole bunch of background vocal singers on this one too. Also off the Stop and Smell the Roses album. Very well done. Definitely more of a country vibe. Definitely more of a chill, kind of laid back vibe, which I think works well after Heart on My Sleeve. And then the album ends with a big, upright, crazy Doug Sam song, She's About a Mover, which also has Joe Walsh on it. And I think there's some other name on there I thought was famous. Well, maybe not. Well, yeah, Joe Walsh. But yeah, it's on the Old Wave album again. Big party atmosphere, rock and roll vibe. Great organ playing, ripping solo throughout this thing. Vocally, absolutely fun. Heck of a lot of fun on this one. But this is actually in the shrink wrap still. So it's open on the side, but the shrink is still on it, which I think is really cool. And I love these late 80s Rhino sleeves. These are so cool. Different, advertisements for what you can buy. There's your list there. Very cool. Because they were reissuing all kinds of stuff back then. So you can get stuff from the Searchers and the Chocolate Watch Band, or Slim Harpo's up there. I mean, all kinds of stuff that you probably weren't able to find at the time. The Outsiders. The Rascals are on there too. Where'd that go? Yeah, the Young Rascals. That's cool. But the record's in absolutely beautiful shape. It's almost like no one played it, sadly enough. Love that Rhino Records label from back in the day. And that's that. Very well put together. The mix on this thing does sound really good too. And I like the attention to detail. I think it would have been cool having Can't Fight Lightning on here, which Ringo would go on to later redo on his most recent album, which I can't Give More Love, which I think is cool. The cassette version is the exact same thing as the record, but the CD actually adds 4 other songs, which I forget the names of. Let me consult the Google here. You Belong to Me, Hopeless, Who Needs a Heart, and Attention were the 4 other songs that were on the CD version. But the tape itself, pretty much the same thing as the record, but of course, encoded in Dolby and Dolby B and R. I wasn't even holding up to the camera that time. There you go. And I'll show you the jacket here too. Not a whole lot in the jacket, just one nice picture of Ringo hanging out there and details about the songs themselves. I found this in a record store in New York City a long time ago, which I thought was cool, and at the time I had never seen it before, so I picked it up. It was pretty cheap. And then same for the record. It was also pretty cheap. If you're new to Ringo's solo stuff from the late 70s, early 80s, and kind of want to get an idea of what he was all about, this is a fantastic introduction. Unfortunately, it's long out of print. You're never going to find a new copy of it, but you might. But yeah, fantastic album. Some of this stuff did end up on the Photograph CD. I wish he would put out a more comprehensive disc of, deeper cuts and some things that may have been forgotten over time that he really enjoyed. I think that'd be a really cool thing to see. So that's it. Starstruck, the best of Ringo Starr, Volume 2. I'm giving this thing like an 8 out of 10. It's a lot of fun to listen to. There really isn't a bad track on it. I probably would have added some more stuff to it, just my own personal taste, but overall, it covers the bases really well. So that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been Ringo Starr, Starstruck, the best of Ringo Volume 2, 1989. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.